Ready? Good afternoon. Appreciate everybody coming. I know it's a lot going on, so I appreciate you taking your time out of our schedule. Our update today, we continue to make progress. As you've kind of seen, we've been trying to send emails to you to see the draft documents. As you have seen, we have a draft of our first section, the existing conditions that Croy sent out to us back in August. I've received some feedback on that. If you have edits or changes, please get those to me and I'll forward those on to Croy. We just received today the draft of the SWOT analysis that we worked through last meeting, and that's going to be on our agenda today. I don't have an agenda here with me, but I sent that out too, so we'll look at that when we get going. Both Ethan and Houston are joining us virtually today, but they're on the screen and they're going to take us through. You've got your agenda, so we'll go ahead and get started. I'll turn it over to Ethan.
All right, can everyone hear me? Yes. Okay, great. So like Kate said, I'm going to start out. We make progress. We've got a draft of the existing conditions. You'll notice later in the agenda we have some time, hopefully, to get some feedback on that. If not, just continue to send your thoughts, revisions, edits, additional data to Daniel, and he will continue to send it to me so that we can add and revise that for sort of a final document. The big thing that we need to focus on today is going to be public engagement. And to get to the public engagement, I'm going to talk a little bit about this SWOT draft that I'm not sure if Daniel's already forwarded it or if there are physical copies there, but that you've either received or are about to receive. So that's been submitted. We're going to talk a little bit about what it is in its current state and what it will be in its finished state. In its current state, it is just reflecting the feedback that you as the steering committee have given. And the document that we submitted shows, basically it took all of the feedback, the SWOT responses that you all gave us, and organized them into 4 categories: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And then bullet pointed them. They've been mixed up, so that, you know, if somebody's able to identify you from that, it's purely from your opinion or writing style. It's not because I've attached your name to any comments here. And eventually, all of that feedback will be put into appendix, as you see. I don't know how many we'll have, so I don't have a label for that yet. That's why it's highlighted in yellow. It may be Appendix A, it may be Appendix X, we're not sure, but it will be sort of at the back of the document later. We'll just have the basic strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats section in the main portion of the plan. Why did we do this? What was the purpose of this exercise? It really helps me get an honest look at where the county is at and what the focus areas need to be, and how we're going to use this is moving forward for public engagement. Now that's why we had this before public engagement. Is I will take a look at the strengths and weaknesses, and then we're going to have a conversation here in just a second, and what will come out of this is the development of sort of priority areas or issues. And we're going to have members of the public during our public engagement rate or rank, from most important to least important, or from 1 to 5, their priorities out of these issues that come up in our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So issues that will help sort of address that. That's why we did this. That's why we're moving towards public engagement. Once we have a rating of the issue areas, that's when we'll be able to take a look at what the community priorities are and develop the goals for the end of the plan. What are the long-term community goals that we want to see come out of this? And then from that, we will sort of develop your priority action plan for short, medium, and long-term goals that ultimately will be the culmination of the plan. Like, why are we doing this? Why did we spend 2 months, 3 months trying to get all of that data for existing conditions? You know, it's what's already there. Why did we spend a month in this exercise? I kind of want to give the big picture overview of why we're doing this and where it's going, so we can see where it's going to end, which is with community priorities that are going to go goals and objectives, which is going to funnel into the sort of strategic action plan that is the real reason we're doing any of this. With that being said, here's where sort of some of our discussion comes in from SWAT. I got some contradicting points on strengths and weaknesses. You know, a lot of people said, hey, it's great that we have a really strong industrial development and you know, an active Main Street organization, but at the same time, I got comments that say we're not investing in our downtown or our local businesses. So, you know, we have some contradiction there. And then, on top of some sort of differences of opinion there, we also have some that are double-edged swords. Proximity to Huntsville. Hey, it's great that we're close. You know, as that continues to grow, we're going to get traffic from Huntsville. We can live here in a lower cost of living area with a culture that we really enjoy and still benefit from the amenities in Huntsville. That's great. That's, you know, sort of a selling point of the county, especially when you move across the state line into Tennessee and you drop that income tax. On the other hand, you also commented that traffic along Huntsville Highway is going to continue to get worse as Huntsville develops, and that a lot of people will leave the county to go do grocery shopping or do their, you know, date nights or weekends out, or a lot of money you see flows away from the county into Alabama because of the proximity to Huntsville. So it's sort of interesting to see some things that can be selling points can also be hindrances there, and the strengths and weaknesses. We saw a couple of those pop up. I just used the proximity to Huntsville as an example. A few questions came up for you all, which is, first, is there, what sort of recreational activity goes on in the county that's structured and organized? Do you have a Parks Department that runs baseball or softball tournaments or pee-wee football?
We do. The city has leagues, various leagues, and the county has a ballpark in the Park City area. And then the schools also have, you know, middle school and other like junior pro elementary type leagues.
Right. So not the schools, are the ones that the city and county run, are those revenue generating? Or, you know, are you having people from out of the county come in for tournaments regularly? Or are those more opportunities for folks who live in the county to get their kids into rec leagues?
I would say just
the county one is located so close to the state line. I think it's about half and half, and it may be a little more than half come across the state line from northern Alabama, Hazel Green area in particular.
Yeah, but we're not hosting like tournaments for travel ball or
Okay.
softball. No,
Right.
that doesn't happen.
Okay.
There's one battle of borders, but that's to the high school.
So that was one question. Another is, how do we balance growth? And this is gonna sort of fall on you all to have this Lincoln County's strengths include a culture with a strong identity. Lincoln County knows who it is, and that is a rural and agricultural county. And a lot of people feel a sense of pride in a small town / farming community. That comes with pros and cons. So strong agricultural industry, you all are punching well above your weight across the state in terms of what you're doing, how you're farming. A lot of produce, you're producing a lot more than you would expect. But on the other hand, farming and agricultural land takes up a lot of land resources. Just requires a lot of space, and it doesn't generate the sort of revenue that residential would generate, and it certainly doesn't generate the sort of revenue that commercial or industrial will generate. So when you talk about housing stock that's aging, or a population that is leaving the county for opportunities outside of the agricultural industry, one of the things that you as the steering committee are going to have to wrestle with, and as we do public engagement, are going to have to get feedback from the county on, is where is that line? How do you balance preserving the sort of agricultural or undeveloped land that you have, and that the county really loves and cherishes, with making sure that the county doesn't actually wither and die because it isn't growing, to use sort of an agricultural metaphor for you. And one of the reasons that may happen is I got a lot of feedback on public infrastructure. There's either a lack of planning for it, or you're just sort of close to capacity there. There's not the growth that some people would like to see maybe doesn't have the support that it would need in public infrastructure, or if it came, it would quickly stretch the budget thin of the county and the city as they look at how to grapple with an increase of growth, which is one of the reasons that we do this, right? So one of our priorities that we take to the public may be, an investment in roads, or an investment in public utilities, or even a plan for public utilities over the next 20 years. How do we make sure, even if we're not behind today, that if we want to see growth over the next 20 years in our housing, we want it to be affordable, we want builders to build, how do we make sure that we plan for that capacity without requiring the dreaded tax hikes or bonds or loans? How do we fiscally responsibly look at and plan for growth, especially if we can plan for growth in a way that raises the bottom line for the county rather than hinders it.
So Ethan, this is Daniel. How and when do we have that conversation?
That's a great question. Don't know how you all are communicating internally. We can use a meeting like this as a forum where maybe I moderate and you all have that conversation, or I can, at sort of the committee's request, generate a list of discussion questions for you all to have. Or maybe it's just through the public engagement that we have various members of the steering committee come out and give their feedback as members of the community and the county in the same way that the rest of the public does. But ultimately, what's going to happen is I'm going to create a draft list of recommendations. And when I submit that to you all will come back and say, hey, we like these recommendations, we want to change these, you're missing this, we want to add this. This is not actually a priority for us as a steering committee. So I'll probably add 4, I might come to you with a draft list of 15 and say, the committee needs to come up with a top 10 or a top 5, and then you all will be able to have that conversation of, out of these 15, these are the 5 we want, or we want 4 that were in here, and you missed something that seems clear and important to us, and we want to add it. So that, will be a conversation that you all can have internally as members of the steering committee. And then, once we get our feedback from the public and develop it into goals and opportunities, we'll have that conversation as well. So that's sort of what I'm doing here is giving you my feedback, what I've learned from putting the SWOT together. And at any point while I'm kind of rambling or explaining up here, but feel free to jump into the sort of discussion on what you see, what you're seeing coming out of SWOT, or as you go over the draft. I got it to you all this morning, so I don't know if anybody's had time to read it, let alone start putting together their feedback. But
They've had it for about an hour, so I'm sure they haven't looked at it yet.
So these are great things. When you get it in your hands, either you print it off and you get a red pen. Dan Dobry, who's joined us a couple times, he's a physical paper and red pen kind of guy. I get all my feedback from him scanned and handwritten. Or if you just want to put notes on this, or if you want to ignore the document altogether and send Daniel your feedback in an email, I can take those comments and send them back to you, and we can sort of do it that way. Or you all can meet outside of the in-person meetings that we have, the CROI schedules, and sit down and say, what do we think about this? Or how do we handle the sort of contradiction of we want to preserve all of this land, and we also want to grow all of this land, and we don't want to get too big for ourselves, but we want to have the amenities that come with a higher population. I had a conversation with the mayor in another rural county in East Tennessee, and she said, we don't need a whole bunch of chains, but we'd love a Chick-fil-A. Like, that's the one thing everybody in the city really wants. And unfortunately, Chick-fil-A's got a formula at their corporate office that says you need a median income of this and that, and you need a population density of this and that. And then once that happens, we can talk about finding the right franchise owner to actually make it happen. But it's just not even a question until certain thresholds are met. And the Dollar General and the Dollar Tree do the same thing. And once we have a population density of 5,000 people within 5 square miles, we can open with these and make money. So, if you people are like, we want more restaurants, or we want to have chain restaurants, or to get that, you have to focus population growth in a concentrated area that will make sure that the business doesn't fail. But that also means, more people and more utility usage and more people on roads and more land being bought and developed. So it's just it's a difficult conversation to have, especially when one of the things that I continue to reiterate throughout the plan is something that wasn't a contradiction and everybody has pointed out, and that it continues to be a theme, is community pride. And I've phrased it one way, strengths, which is your strength is community and culture. But if you go through the appendix later, and you're looking through everybody's feedback, you'll see over and over again, it's strengths or it's people, it's opportunities, is the community is willing to roll up their sleeves and do hard work and get the job, just the culture and the identity of the county is really strong, which means that any change to it is more difficult, for better or for worse. People are protective over what they have. So that's what you're going to see. see when you take a look at everybody's input and what's been generated in this draft PDF. And it's going to look prettier too in the final product. This is just a Word document that's been PDF, but we'll have some nice graphics, some more color coded. We'll add some photos of the county that kind of underscore each of the quadrants here. I want to reiterate that as well. I don't know if that's how important that is to you, but I take a lot of pride in the work I produce. So we'll make sure that when we do have all the feedback and comments here from the SWOT analysis, that you guys aren't going to get just a printed off Word document. I want you to know that as you go through this. Right now, we're really trying to focus on the actual content, and then we can put lipstick on it later. So before we shift into a conversation that we are going to have with me, and we're going to have to come to a conclusion on the public engagement, do we have any questions about SWOT?
Again, they probably hadn't had a chance to look at it. I got it out about an hour ago or something. And it's in your inbox, but you'll have to go through it. Okay.
Okay, well, with that being said, like I said, the big picture here is this was developed in order to generate community priorities. You know, if we know what the county does well with its strengths and what the opportunities are that the county can capitalize on with its opportunities, where do we prioritize limited county resources with what you all want to achieve? And that's going to come out of public engagement. We're going to get you a relatively quick turnaround with the draft version of our public engagement materials. One thing that we'll do is a future land use map, which is a pretty standard and common feature of comprehensive plan. That's just a little planner 101 is, it's not a zoning map. It's not what is it currently zoned, and we don't have to look at every parcel and decide whether it's going to be residential or commercial or agricultural. And you can do it even in areas where the municipalities, the counties don't utilize zoning. So a sort of land use control without zoning, this conversation still happens. It's more a question of where in the county do we want to focus residential growth? Where do we want to focus commercial growth? Where do we see opportunities for industrial growth? Where do we want to preserve both agriculturally, where do we want to preserve the land, and naturally? So another recurring theme in the SWOT was everybody loves the river. So how do we utilize that space? And maybe more importantly, how do we make sure that it isn't polluted or destroyed, or that you don't have somebody from out of town come in and take advantage of resources that the counties. So that is going to be what the future land use map will look like, and it will probably just be a picture of the county, and we'll solicit that feedback. Put yellow stickers where you want to see housing, and put red stickers where you want to see commercial, and put green stickers where you want to see land preserved, and put sticky notes anywhere where this dot is not enough to communicate your concerns. We'll do a ranking of priorities from that list that I'll submit to you. And so community members will have an opportunity to say, what are my community priorities from from highest to lowest, from 1 to 5, out of these options. And then we'll have an opportunity for community members to fill out their own strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats, what's important to them, and then we'll have one just sort of comment card section. What's something that these boards don't capture that you feel is vital or important to communicate for the future of the plan? And the reason we'll have a quick turnaround on that is because we want to hit the ground running with our public engagement. So the big thing that we need to do, as we look down here on our outline, we've hit public engagement. I've given you sort of an outline of what we want to do. When the questions that you as the steering committee are going to have to answer is, when do we want COI to come down and perform our public engagement? And does Lincoln County want to do additional public engagement outside of that? Because if that's the case, we'll talk about making sure that you have the materials we plan on using, and we can kind of strategically coordinate any training with the boards. Again, they're pretty straightforward, but data collection, we want all that to go smoothly. And so the option to the county is to run as many of you as you want. Maybe you want to make sure that you get one in every commissioner's district, or there are just a couple big events that you feel like you can get a lot of good feedback at that we can't cover in our scope. So first question, does Lincoln County, do you all think that you as the county, or you as the steering committee, or you as the members of the community will hold additional in-person public engagement?
What's your thoughts on that? I thought it was a good idea. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, that was the general consensus earlier when we talked.
I think that makes sense to put one in each of the 8 districts. School or fire hall or something like that.
Voting districts,
Yeah.
how's that gonna vote?
Anybody feel otherwise, that it's not a good idea to do that?
I think not let it be the only way.
Good point. Did you hear that, Ethan? That the idea is
Go ahead.
maybe have one in each of the 8 districts, but not, make sure that is not the only source of information gathered. I think that's your thought too, right?
Yeah, that's excellent. So for any additional public engagement that you all do, you're welcome to decide how you want to pursue that, whether that's in voting districts or in commissioner districts or popular community events. And what's important is that we're going to decide on a method and set dates so that we know how long the public engagement process is going to last. In addition to the public engagement we do in person, we'll have a sort of a digital version of the same survey that I outlined earlier that we can distribute via business cards on QR codes, or via email listservs, or church community groups, or the Main Street organizations and downtown business. Any way that we want to, we can get those out digitally. And even I have noticed sometimes in person where people don't, they're like, oh, what is this guy selling over here? I'm apprehensive about giving all this information or sharing my opinion publicly. You can say, hey, this is what we're doing, why we're collecting this, and if you don't have the time, or would rather kind of take some time to think about it, just you can go online and fill it out here via this source. So we'll be able to collect information in person and digitally. And the more that we hold and the longer that we go on, the more opinions that we capture, but also that pushes the deadline or the sort of the pace of the plan further back. So the longer we take in public engagement, the longer it will take to wrap everything up and get started on actually implementing the plan. and the more time it will take for you all to coordinate and make sure everything's done. So there's a balance there. So with that being said, if you all do want to do additional work, what event do you think you all would want Croy to come down for? We've got the county fair, we have the, what is it, first Saturdays?
First Saturdays, yeah.
First Saturdays, I think were the two big ones that we thought might generate a lot of foot traffic or interest. You know, the county is welcome to host those, and then I can come down with some help at a later date for one of the commissioner districts, or maybe you hold a town hall. That's really up to you all, but we just need to sync up our calendars and pick a date, so now we can start advertising, and that's where I'll lean heavily to you all as well, as once we've picked all our dates, you know, getting the word out.
I don't know what y'all think. I think the fair, it's next week, so we're pushing it on that. It might be a good way to get the information out through the chamber booth or whatever, but I don't think we're gonna be able to put together a meeting by then.
What are the dates for the fair?
14th. Begin.
Okay. Okay.
I got a question. Okay, how many pages would, if we just print out what you're talking about, if they, you know, that someone could click on, how many pages is it? Because there's a lot of our community that's not gonna be up to speed on doing something with a computer or a phone, that they might respond, you know, if we had it available in just a handout.
So, I think that I'm envisioning for in person, they're going to be post reports, you know, sort of big things on easels, 32 by 40 something. But if we put that onto an 8.5 by 11, I would imagine no more than 4 boards, probably 3. So 3 pieces of paper, one of which is going to be a map, one will be priority ranking, one will be a SWOT, and then I may have something for an additional exercise, but really the 4th thing is just going to be other comments, so that would be you know, anybody who's doing this on paper can just add their own thoughts, either on the back of a sheet or on a line notebook paper or on an index card. So if you want to do a physical mail campaign, I'm thinking 3 8.5 by 11s and a return envelope.
Of course, we can push, you know, let's also put the in-person meetings too, for folks who aren't comfortable with.
If there's not something illegal about it, if we have that, you just hand it out to the people who went through early voting. That's such a, kind of a slice of Lincoln County that if you had that where they can mail it back in, I think a lot of those people, because those are people that are concerned about their community. If they get out and vote, and you're gonna cover, you know, probably more than 10% of the population of Lincoln County, if we just had it that and made it easy.
You talk about mailing it to that list or standing in November?
Handing it out, and the only thing they would have to do is fill it out and put a stamp on it. I think you need to put the envelope with it, but, you know, for 2 pages in an envelope, if we can hand it out, I don't know if it's okay in Sheila's office, you know, just handing that out. You could outside of that area, you know, where it's off limits, you could have a tent there and hand it out to those people. There may be an easy way. But to me, covering the broad spectrum of who's Lincoln County, that to me just seems like an opportunity that or we could send it back in if it's easy enough to just put it on.
If we could establish the dates of when we're gonna have these forums, you could have a card to hand out that would invite the voters to attend one of those multiple forums and encourage them to complete the forms there. You may be more apt to get, participation that
You
way.
have the card with those dates, and on the other side have the QR code, in case they want to do it online,
And
but
then that
try to
way,
push that.
everybody, and then you could give additional cards out to us, Mayor Newman, saying those that are not able to do the computer stuff, they would have the, dates, and they could pick which one of those would work best for them to attend instead of all the papers.
So for the first one, I guess that you guys would conduct, I mean, what do y'all think about the feasibility of just, I mean, not necessarily tying it to the fair, to the host or something, because people aren't gonna do both. It needs to be a separate action, advertise it, have it at the courthouse or at, you know, somewhere, adequate room. They can come and participate, to kick it off.
I just don't know how good a response you're gonna get at those type of activities when, you know, they're bringing family, and a lot of them are Lincoln County residents to start with. Not that hurts if they're filming them out, but.
No, I'm saying we don't do it at a
Oh,
event.
don't do it.
Yeah, because they're not gonna, they're there to go to the host, they're not there to go to a meeting.
I think you'll get very poor response.
Yeah, I agree. I think it needs to be a separate scheduled meeting. And I don't know what time, how quickly could that be put together, Ethan? Will you guys be ready to conduct that meeting?
So that depends a little bit on how quickly, once we get our draft materials together, you will approve that. I think probably 3 to 4 weeks. So, you know, at first week of October, probably at the earliest to be ready for a physical meeting. I would love to be able to put together the digital survey in time to start advertising that for the fair. I'm not going to promise that, but I will go ahead and just say, in my experience and in Dan's experience, and I don't know if Houston has really any experience doing public engagement, even though at events like fairs and first Saturdays and farmers markets, people are not there to be solicited or to give their input because they're already there. That's 75% of the battle, is just trying to get somebody to show up. We do, or have had a history of having higher response rates at events where just a bunch of people are there, even if they're not there for our particular event. So I'm not saying that needs to be the first one or the one that we're at, but I would encourage trying to go to where the community is rather than invite the community to where you are for at least some of your events. You know, maybe we hold one big one first that's just in the town hall. We do it from 6 to 8. And, you know, you all can, we can promise, you know, cookies and lemonade or pizza to entice people to come out. And if it's from 6 to 8, the way that we're doing it, nobody has to stay for that long, and we can provide crayons and paper for kids if they, you know, if parents or families are concerned about childcare. There are a lot of things that you can do to kind of make that come out to the city hall or county seat a little more enticing. But typically, if somebody's already at a fair and you're like, this will take 5 minutes and will have a big impact on the way that Lincoln County looks in the future, you get a decent response rate. So just things to consider when you kind of plan on how you want to stage your additional dates. But I think for us, probably 5 to 10 days to get materials sent out to you, and then, a week for you all to review the materials and get feedback to me, and then some time for us to make those changes and print the physical copies and get down to the county.
So you're talking about late October, probably. Just we need to think about the day of the week too, because, Saturday's not football, it's not a good day, Friday night's not.
What about just having, like, at the first Saturdays of the fair, just having a promotional thing about the meeting?
Right,
And
yeah.
having the boards there and saying, okay, this is what we're doing, this is what we're trying to get done for you and the citizens of the county, and we're gonna have this meeting here, and we have the dates of all the meetings, and that way they can decide, is this something I care about, is this something I wanna know about?
Yeah.
And most likely it's gonna be people that are gonna be mad about something on there, rather than people that are gonna be,
Yeah.
okay, well, that's fine, I don't need to go. But, at least have them something promotional at those things, so they know it's coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this. Maybe the urgency is to get the dates nailed down. That's gonna take us.
You got a first Saturday, October 5th. You got the, trick or trunk with the fire department, October 26th. Those are both Saturdays. Of course, post is the 9th, right? What is it? You just had the 10th.
October's the
Yeah,
last one.
just something, just as
And the
a,
QR code is there, if anyone wanted to do it.
just as a teaser, hey, here's what we're doing, and if you want to come, do the dates, yeah.
So my experience has been more in transportation project related, but we're talking about similar things here, so I don't think that, soliciting input at the fair at first Saturday doesn't seem to be the greatest place to receive responses, but it is a fantastic place to put a pamphlet in someone's and say, hey, if you're interested in this, please just respond on your own time to this query or this survey, whatever we have posted. And a similar notion for any of the public meetings that we have. We can certainly be there on the primary one to receive input directly for those who attend. But there will also be an opportunity to, just digest what you're hearing and seeing. We're always there to help answer questions, and if you want to, you can respond later. And the same thing for the district meetings if you have that. So there's really a great opportunity to advertise, to get the word out and get the survey out, where folks can go back and provide input at their own time and at their own convenience. And we could do that in the one meeting, and certainly they could be recorded in district meetings as well.
And one thing to consider as well as we look at dates is holiday schedule. You'll have to consider when Lincoln County schools do their fall break, and then if we're looking at like mid-October to start, kind of the end, the back end of the date range we should be considering is going to be before Thanksgiving, because once you hit the Thanksgiving holiday, a lot of folks travel to see family, and then you have Christmas and school break, and so just in colder weather, and it gets darker sooner. It's harder to get folks out once we hit that Thanksgiving stretch. So we're really looking at like mid-October to mid-November would be ideal to try and schedule these out. And maybe, and Daniel, I'll defer to you, as time sort of drawing close on this meeting, maybe what we could do is just create that as a to-do, to where the steering committee selects their dates. Hey, we want to have meetings in each of these districts, and we want to do them on these dates, and then you get back to me, and in that time, I can start prepping the draft materials for you all to review. And we just need to set that as like we need to get those set in stone sooner rather than later.
That's good. So if you guys would shoot me an email with any kind of constraints or suggestions, fall break and host and, you know, anything you can think of that would constrain when we need to put this thing. And I'll try to use that to navigate something to put out some dates for our comprehensive meeting that Croy would attend, and then try to schedule out something in each of the districts, which that's not gonna be easy. I'll talk to the commissioners from each district and see if we can coordinate something. I'll try to put together some kind of straw man schedule, and then based on what you tell me, and then I'll send it back out to you, and then you can look at it and give me some advice on that. It's not gonna be easy to schedule this thing, as you know, scheduling and all that stuff, but even if somebody can't make a particular district meeting, they can come to the next one, or they can do it online or whatever. I mean,
Yeah, that's the important thing here is, you know, we don't need every member of the steering committee at every meeting. And if we do decide to do district-wide, you probably just need to make sure that the, you know, the commissioners in that district are available, and everybody else who can make it, you know, is welcome to show up. But we want to try and make this as easy as possible rather than as difficult or as hard on ourselves as possible.
if y'all will send me any suggestions like that, and I'll try to put together a notional schedule. I'll work with the commissioners and see if I can get them all on the same page. And we'll try to get that. Okay, and you can have the, I do like the idea of having the, well, I don't know, if we can get that done quickly, we can advertise that at the fair. That would be outstanding, to be able to have those dates nailed down by then, so.
So why don't we go ahead and tentatively set that I will attempt to get the draft materials to you all by this time next week, and you will get a draft schedule back for our review by this time next week. So we give ourselves a week to put these together.
That won't hit the fair, but that's okay. I mean, it's too late to do that, I think. We're probably beyond that. But it would hit the first Saturday, it would hit the host. Okay.
Regarding these, the panels, or did I understand right, one of them, when you said one of them will be a map of the county, right?
Correct.
And then are you soliciting feedback from the public, did I understand you right, on like where would you think businesses should go, industry and neighborhoods and that kind of thing? Is that what the map is for?
Right. Broadly speaking, it's not going to be, you know, hey, this is a dead-end street, or this is my neighborhood and I don't want anything to go here. It's going to sort of be, it's going to be a bigger picture than that. Like, if this is, you know, our beautiful downtown park, and we want to keep it a beautiful downtown park, and we don't want to develop industry around it. Or, you know, all along Huntsville Highway seems great for commercial and industrial development, and then maybe we want to concentrate, like we want population growth, but we want to preserve, so we just want to increase the density in and around the city, or you know, those are the sort of options and opportunities. So it's going to be a little bit broader, big picture, but it is, that's the idea, is people will be able to place on the map where they want to see those sort of generally, where they want to see areas that can grow and where they can see areas that are preserved. And then those growth categories will be sort of divided into subsections.
Will you have, as you collect that data, would we know the location the person is responding from, or they, I'd be very interested to see how that correlates. I bet it's all going to be developed over there and preserved over here.
So, we don't, because people in person are a lot more skittish to respond if you ask for personal details. And then online, people don't like giving out their email if they don't have to. We typically don't get the addresses of the responders, plus that's identifying, oh, you know, this is my neighbor Bob, and now I know exactly what he thinks about this county. But what we have, it's been my experience before, because I've done counties where we'll go either in commissioner district or major neighborhoods, or, kind of have divided the city into areas, cities or counties. And as you rotate those areas, you can see a broad pattern from each area where it is typically, we want to preserve this area and put the stuff in the other 6, 7, 8 areas, and that just kind of rotates like a clock, depending on the area that you're in. But yeah, your instincts are dead on there.
But you do find value in that, asking that kind of feedback from.
We do, and there are patterns that will emerge. You'll get stuff like, we want to preserve our waterways, or our park here, or we've got a brownfield development, an old foundry, for instance, that is not used, that's dilapidated, and we would love to put together sort of a plan for how that can be developed, and then solicit a developer to come out and build us a restaurant and some homes or something, So even though in general you also have a lot of, you get a lot of, not in my backyard, but everywhere else is fine. You also get at a more general level, you'll see what the community as a whole cares about, and those are going to be sort of institutions, and that's going to be the data that we, that's going to be really valuable for the county. Not to mention, you have to combine it with county constraints. So if somebody's like, hey, this farm is closing its doors or is not utilizing 100% of its land, it would be great if a small subdivision backed up here, we could get a decent amount of housing stock. But it's way out on the edge of the county where a developer's not going to be able to get sewer and or water, and that just becomes infeasible. Then, what we do is we take a look at the county's priorities and preferences, or the community's priorities and preferences, both from the mapping exercise and from the priorities exercise, and then general feedback that we will synthesize and put in an appendix very similar to the one that we have for SWAT, and take that out and come to you all and say, what's realistic here? What can we actually do? And that's when we start developing our goals. We have our community vision, we have our vision statement for the plan. Using those, we're going to come out with some plan goals that are actionable that the county can start working on. Not stuff that's overly ambitious or lofty that will never get done. I don't want to create a paperweight. I think at the end of this, Croy wants to deliver a product that will actually be useful and worth the investment from the county to act upon.
That's great. So you're going to get us give me those draft materials by when?
We'll aim for Monday, week from today.
All right, and you guys will get me any ideas or constraints you have on the dates, and once I get that, I'll get the draft schedule back out to you, and once we finalize that, I'll get that to you, Ethan, once that schedule's finalized. You guys have the SWOT analysis in your inbox. If you don't, tell me, because I may have missed somebody. And over the next, when do you need feedback on that, Ethan, on the SWOT?
That is going to be a little bit broader, because we're going to be able to come back and change, make changes to that after public engagement. So I just need feedback on the SWOT by the time that our public engagement period ends.
Okay, so you guys.
Same with existing conditions. I know you said you've already got a few responses from that. We're going to try and have existing conditions, final draft, SWOT final draft, and then a summary of our public engagement data, what it means and why we're using it. I want to complete all of that by wrap up towards the end of the year.
All right, what else you got?
So that is public engagement, existing conditions feedback. Daniel, you mentioned a few people who got back to you. I don't know that I've seen much of that, so again, that is not urgent. Let's plan on trying to get, if anybody has feedback on the way existing conditions looks, let's try and get that done by the end of our public engagement period. And then we'll have the first half of our plan in a final draft stage. So that is SWOT feedback, existing conditions feedback. I have public engagement, beta test, and advertising. The beta test is, once I have my draft materials, I'll send them to you all. We'll do the digital version as well, so you can go on and try and fill that out just with dummy results to see if it's intuitive, like if the questions that we ask make sense when you read them, and if you're able to input the sort of answers that you want. Basically, if the digital version works or not. And we'll have that turned around as soon as we get our feedback from the draft materials that we send to you. And that's all that I've got.
All right. The only thing I would say in closing here is that there are other pieces of information that are being developed now that's going to be beneficial to us. I know, for example, the IDB has commissioned a housing study, and that's a great thing. Hopefully we can benefit from some of those results. I know the IDB and the utilities have met and are looking at, kind of what we're talking about here, some potential areas that would be good for industrial growth based on, where current utilities are, or where they could easily, or not easily, but most efficiently be constructed. And so there's a lot of things that, this is good timing, so it should be able to roll in here, so that hopefully, by the time this thing is finished, we'll have a pretty good document that can incorporate a lot of this information into something that's really usable for us. So that's important. The only thing we have left is to talk about the next meeting date. When do we need to meet? When will we have something to meet about, I guess is the question.
So I think our next meeting date is going to be in person for us to help conduct our public engagement. If we get back a list of dates sometime next week, and you've outlined something for sometime in October, we'll say, and that's roughly 4 to 8 weeks from now, and we will convene then in person to run these exercises. I don't know that we would need to meet in the interim unless there are major issues or concerns with the materials that you receive, in which case we can schedule something as needed.
Okay. So we'll pass along those information to everybody. You can review it. The next time they will be here for the public meeting, and then we'll talk about after that when we want to get back to that. Any comments from anybody? Ethan, you in Houston? You good?
Good on our end.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys being on. I think it was productive, and I'll get this out to everybody. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everybody.